I think this show is intimating that he already has powers when he's a child in that movie theater. This show's gonna be about like representation. He connects with this character in this kind of campy superhero show he watches as a kid because he sees himself on screen.
To say that he was born with it is basically to say that he has a genealogical profile, that he's a mutant of some kind. He's got this almost Island of Dr. Moreau approach where he's like, I'm going to make a movie. I will irradiate my lead actor to make him superhero, and Boyhood style, I will document this. And I think that's what it is. I think he's got some weird technology that he's going to like fuse with the filmmaking process.
There was a line, and his agent says the breakdown is go method.
Yeah, right? There you go. Then it's gotta be something like that, right? Welcome back to New Rockstars. Marvel's Wonderman will be the next big Marvel Studios title coming in January. While the latest trailer starts to show more of Simon Williams' powers, we're still wondering, what are these powers on this series? Where do they come from? And how do these powers fit within the broader taxonomy of powers in the MCU? This is The Sneak Peek, the New Rockstars podcast that looks ahead to the future of fandom. We are Erik, Voss, and Zach Huddleston. Hello, Zach.
Hello, I was born for this role.
Were you born for it, or were you cosmically irradiated, or bitten by a spider, or just punched really hard until grief manifested into some weird drive to get booked on things?
Definitely the latter. Yeah.
Probably that last one. Jessica's feeling a little under the weather this week, but she'll be back next week. Zach, thanks for jumping in here. We always love having you here on the show. So yes, and we are doing all of our podcasts here on the break room set because we just love this set. We love getting good audio here, and we think it just looks really cool, and it works better in case we want to bring more people on in the future, which may be happening more in these podcast announcements to come. So you may have seen this week, we got this new teaser for Marvel Television's Wonderman, starring Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Simon Williams. He's a working actor in Hollywood who's got some kind of power. We don't really know what's going on. All we know from this teaser is that President Gurkos from DCU is giving Black Manta a role. Let's take a look at this teaser and do a good Siskel and Ebert turn here.
There is an opportunity to reimagine a whole genre of storytelling.
Ooh. There it is!
I'm gonna need you to sign this to confirm you don't have superpowers.
Yeah.
And we turn back in as the camera swoops back and we get into it. 2 thumbs up or no, I don't know. 3 things I noticed from that trailer. 1, Rogers the Musical is being turned into a film franchise within the MCU. Let's go.
I love that.
2, the whole powers thing that we'll get to in a second. But most importantly, Zach, are you teaching the improv classes that are flyered in the background of that trailer?
I would love to. I would love to be I do as a separate outside of New Rockstars, I do teach improv. I would love to be the go-to MCU improv teacher. And you know what? I want a healthy, non-sarcastic, non-negative depiction of improv classes in media. There's a long, this is a quick diatribe, guys. There's a long history because so many people that write television and film, act in television and film, did improv maybe in their younger years or in college or when they were, still a struggling actor. And so then when they make it and they're able to craft this mass market media, they make fun of the art form in ways that stand-up and music do not typically get made fun of.
That's right. When you cut back to artists who are depicted in movies like A Star Is Born, they go back to their humble stages in a kind of romantic way.
Yes, it's glamorous when they're playing for 10 people in a coffee shop, but the improv version of that is you're pathetic, it's unfunny, this is the cringiest stuff ever. And I will say, yes, all of that stuff can be true, but also it's a beautiful art form that is capable of true transcendent brilliance. And you'll see that if you come see me every other Monday at the West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica, California. Okay.
And I think the only reason they get away with it is because improv artists by our nature have to be humble and not have egos in order to be successful. So we let them get away with it. Whereas like music stars, there is something romantic about, picking a banjo for however many people.
Yes, and it is a more obscure art form in that like almost everybody consumes music on a daily basis. People see stand-up on television and the internet so much, but improv is rarer, and usually when you are exposed to it, it's your friend's bad show that you were convinced to go to. Anyways, Guys, we only got 45 more minutes to talk about improv and its depiction in pop culture, okay?
and we're really calling on you, those who have made it to work in these staff writing rooms. Be the brave voice in the room at the at the table and say, no, we're not going to depict improv this way. Let's depict it as it actually is. When Craig Kukowski or Zach Woods gets on the stage, they light it on fire with some of the most inspiring art and hilarious work you'll ever see.
Even did you see, I'm sure you've seen it, in the Becky Drysdale, incredibly talented improviser, longtime improviser, Chicago and Los Angeles, one of the writers on Welcome to Derry.
That's right.
Which is not a show you would maybe associate with improv comedy. But
and most of the writers staff on Wonderman are improvisers.
Yeah.
A lot of them, Zeke, Nicholson, a lot of them are people who have been on UCB and other stages. So we'll see how it works out on this show. But let's talk about Wonder Man's powers. In the comics, Wonder Man has what I will call somewhat vague powers, in that he has these kind of like ionic radiation that is coursed through him. He's the son of an industrialist. He and his brother are the son of a corrupt industrialist, but he is like a stuntman working in the industry. He gets this ionic radiation that enhances his strength, his durability, his speed, kind of the basic slate of physical powers that leads him to become someone who's working for Baron Zemo to infiltrate the Avengers. But then he flips morally and he joins the West Coast Avengers, and he's an important part of the West Coast Avengers lineup. And this is like in the late 80s, when the West Coast Avengers includes others like Hawkeye and
Vision's in there.
Scarlet Witch is a big part of it. So he's there with them. We don't know if that's what they're going to do on the show, though. I don't know if Simon Williams, like his dad, is going to watch movies with him back in, I don't know, the 80s, whenever that is. Does not seem to be the industrialist that he is in the comics. They're doing a lot of different things here.
And I have a theory about that particular shot of him watching a film as a child.
Go off.
Should I go right now?
Yeah.
So, we're going to talk about it in a moment as we get into the taxonomy of how different Marvel characters get their powers or have their powers. And, a universality for the most part across our current MCU, a pre-X-Men introduction, is that these characters were not born with these powers. Maybe there's, like in the case of the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, there, or even in both Bruce Banner and Jennifer Walters, it's intimated that there was something about them that made them more receptive. They were born with something that made them more receptive to getting the powers, but nobody's born with powers as we've seen, right, in the 616. And so one is to assume maybe while he is watching that film, maybe he hasn't received them yet, right? However he goes about getting his Wonder Man powers might take place in between then and early adulthood, experiments, tests, serums, whatever are applied. But actually, I think this show is intimating that he already has powers when he's a child in that movie theater. And I think just based on some of the phrasing of Simon Williams to his agent character and to Ben Kingsley's character, right? I was born for this. I need this role. That is because I think what this show is going to go for, and the reason we see that shot of him watching as a kid, right? This show is going to be about like representation in unique ways, right? He connects with this character in this kind of campy superhero show he watches as a kid because he sees himself on screen, right? He sees like a superpowered individual fighting things, and he's like, that can be me. I have super strength and I want to do those things, right? And so he makes that kind of connection, and that is why, now for some reason he doesn't employ those powers, and instead maybe we learn why he might have tamped those down. But then when he finally gets the opportunity to like, great, I always associated myself and saw myself represented on screen with Wonder Man. Finally, now I get to be this thing that I was represented as, right? In the same way that maybe if you are an Indigenous person that sees a great Indigenous character on screen, and you're like, God, I'd love to play that character someday, or whatever community you might fall into, or however you identify, right? Like, I think that might be what they're intimating with some of these lines and images they're showing in the trailers.
I think thematically you're right. I do think that's going to be the story of Wonder Man. I think that's what excited these particular writers who pitched this show to Marvel, and what excited Marvel executives like Brad Winderbaum to greenlight this show is specifically that idea of wish fulfillment, of reframing the narrative, of representation, of all these things.
And what these fandom-driven medias mean to people.
Yeah.
Right?
See, that kind of second screen idea of within the MCU, there are film and TV properties that inspire people. It's kind of almost the same story as Kamala Khan. It's like within that world, the Avengers have become almost like in The Boys, popular media within that world that have conventions around them, and that at those conventions, young girls from Jersey City go. Now, they also added a bunch of other elements to Kamala Khan's story, from the fact that she gets these bangles that are cosmically irradiated from the Nord Dimension, and the fact that she's a mutant. So there's a lot of things there, which is why I think when it comes to his powers exactly, to say that he was born with it is basically to say that he has a genealogical profile, that he's a mutant of some kind, that something about his genetic profile.
Well, and I think like my current pitch, based on very limited information, is that maybe not born with it, but that something has occurred in his childhood. Whatever the exposure or the testing or the whatever has already occurred when we see that image of what looks to be like an 8-year-old boy watching this film in a movie theater, right?
I have another theory, but I do want to go through where powers even come from in the MCU first. So I want to tease you guys so you watch this whole thing, and then maybe you'll hear my theory at the end, or you'll skip ahead. If that's what you do, it's what you do. So should we address the question, though, of like, why does he have to sign this paperwork, this NDA? Are they requiring people to be depowered? They don't want people to already have this power in some way? And then what is this power?
I loved the inclusion of that random line at the end of this most recent teaser, and it is very intriguing because I have a lot of questions about it, right? We were talking about it in the office before we started recording. So this show is set in the MCU, right? So it's like, it's set in a world where Captain America exists, Hulk exists, Thor exists, right? Presumably lots of other characters we haven't even seen portrayed yet in the MCU. There are powered individuals out there. And so, you know, anybody creating a show or anybody existing in this world knows the powered people live out there. Why would they not allow them to act or portray something? And like my guess, and I had a brief life as a working actor. Mostly did commercials, if you've seen some regional spots for, you know, anyways. Yeah, but you know, I went to a lot of auditions, never at the level of like, we're casting a major superhero, mostly commercials and like small roles. But like, you frequently, even just to audition, you often have to sign off on stuff, right? Like, are you willing to cut your hair? Are you willing to travel to a different state or country where this will be filming? Can you consume shellfish sometimes, you know, if it's a commercial? And so like, that is not unusual to get people to sign off on something or to agree before they even begin this process. We don't want to cast you, realize you have a peanut allergy and this is a Nutter Butter commercial or something like that, right? I never was required to sign something admitting I wasn't a superhero or did not have powers. But that's why I wonder if this is a union rule, right? Like if this is a SAG, you know, production, the Wonderman, which presumably it is, it's a big Hollywood film, that they can't allow powered individuals on set because that could be a danger to other people, right? Like you could easily picture if you cast somebody with real powers and they're fighting a stuntman, they slip up and knock the guy's head off.
Oh yeah, good point. That's an interesting point. Yeah, it might just be a safety thing. There's a union rule that it's the same way that you have mandatory breaks every 4 hours or something like that. I like that theory a lot. Maybe this, though, is something that is a unique request by this eccentric director. Ooh. That maybe part of his process, he's presented as almost like a Stanley Kubrick, Francis Ford Coppola eccentric.
Or I got a lot of George Miller, too, who is a guy that had a franchise and then many years later brought the franchise back as well.
After doing like Happy Feet, almost like a reverse of it, like someone who's gone off and done these weird kind of like... almost like Villeneuve a little bit in that he did prestige films and is now coming back to do Dune and Bond.
Yes,
you know?
I mean, Terrence Malick was a good example too.
That's probably the more accurate.
He had a run in the 70s, kind of disappeared, and then kind of came back in the 2000s.
Yeah, Terrence Malick is probably the best example of who this guy's supposed to be. Well, maybe he's got this almost Island of Dr. Moreau approach where he's like, I'm going to make a movie, but it is going to be so specific in what my process is that I will irradiate my lead actor to make him superhero. And Boyhood style, I will document this in cinema verite. I don't know. I think that's what it is. I think he's got some weird technology that he's going to like fuse with the filmmaking process.
There was a line, not in this teaser, but in the first trailer that came came out where Simon is getting a callback. Presumably, we think that's when he's showing up to the mansion with Ben Kingsley, right? And his agent says the breakdown is go method.
Yeah,
right?
There you go. Then it's got to be something like
and
that,
so,
right?
Method acting to way oversimplify something that is pretty complex is like living as the character you are portraying, right? All the stories of Daniel Day-Lewis, like hunting his own food for 6 months before he's in Last of the Mohicans or whatever, right? Like that kind of method, or, you know, Joaquin Phoenix refusing to break character on the set of Joker or whatever, like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I do want to get to my theory in a bit, but like, let's just go through the usual suspects of sources of powers in the MCU. We've kind of gone through all the MCU characters that we know of and grouped them into, like, it looks like about 6 categories here. You may remember in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sam Wilson said androids, aliens, and wizards are the 3 types of like bad guys they often fight. That kind of helped us here. Really though, let's start with the first most common source of powers, super soldier serum. So super soldier serum explains the power set of Steve Rogers, not Sam Wilson though, but like Bucky Barnes,
US agent,
and then other characters. You could argue even like on the Jessica Jones Daredevil side of it, some of them have some version of super soldier serum, or just some kind of serum. Like any, like Hulk in a way has like a form of serum. He has a combination of a couple different things. So people who are humans who have been enhanced through some kind of scientific means, anybody who maybe not a Wolverine, Logan himself, but like other people who have been part of that program have had super soldier serum. Luke Cage, maybe you could say, is some kind of derivant of that process. I don't think that's going to be the source of Simon Williams' powers. I don't think it's going to be a serum that he takes. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think I agree, though I could see a world, so like fresh in my brain and like a show we both loved, Barry, right? Where Bill Hader plays a former, like, you know, black ops military guy that wants to leave that world behind. He's been a hitman, and he goes and he joins an acting class and tries to make it in Hollywood, right? While kind of balancing both those things. The premise of this is very similar, right? Like in that it's showing like acting classes and auditions and stuff like that. And this guy who has a special set of skills that he is kind of hiding in his acting world, right? Like, could it be that he was in some kind of super program in a military structure? He left that because like, my real dream is to act, right? Like they're not showing us any of that backstory in any of these trailers, but could that be true for Simon Williams?
Perhaps, because it doesn't matter if you're working in the arts or not, because we even saw with Bob Reynolds in Thunderbolts, he was just kind of like an addict who was wandering the world looking for a hit and really struggling. And then the OBE program found him and made him into Sentry through what was essentially super soldier serum. So maybe in the way that some working actors will sell certain fluids from their body, Simon Williams signed up for some weird program just to make rent that month. And then sure enough, he was one of these failed Sentry projects. There's another form of that.
Certain fluids.
Well, I didn't want to say sperm or blood plasma, but one of those two. No one's selling piss.
Though if you are, hit me up on Instagram.
Because this guy drinks too much water. We should move on to another source. The radiation, the cosmic radiation or gamma radiation. So that's kind of like how the other part of Hulk's power set, but also all the Marvels. So you have Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, Kamala Khan. They all have this sort of cosmic radiation. In a way, the Fantastic Four hit with the same kind of cosmic radiation.
Technically different universe as of now, but yes.
Anybody who got irradiated by an Infinity Stone at some point, or some kind of power that was derived from an Infinity Stone, is in a way powered by cosmic radiation. Just some kind of power from space in some way that enhanced them. Marvel Studios loves to just go back to this so it's possible.
And it's a very both of the first two categories here, like super soldier serum and cosmic radiation, are classic golden age comic book origins, right? Like two of the most common. There's so many both villains and heroes that basically got their powers that way.
And if they're going comic accurate with Simon Williams, it would look something like this. Ionic radiation, who knows what the hell that is, but they'll just say light glowing off of something that has some some kind of non-terrestrial origin of some kind, and then it changes his DNA profile or whatever his physical power set. He glows. If we see the man glow, if his fists glow at some point as a result of some kind of process like that, it means cosmic radiation.
Or famously, Wonder Man's eyes glow red, right? Like is
that.
like one of his signature looks. Yeah.
The third source is, I think, the least likely, you might say, magic. So a lot of characters just have their powers from magic. So that includes people like Doctor Strange, Wanda Maximoff. That's another kind of component to how she got her powers. In addition to really all of these things so far. Loki, technically, even though he's a frost giant, right? But he's a Jotunheim-based ward who lived with Odin. He's kind of a god in some ways, but he learned magic from Thor's mother. So he has magic in that way. He is Agatha Harkness has magic and sorcery.
Certainly at the end of the series, maybe Ironheart falls into that category.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's hinted at, yeah.
Or some of the characters in Ironheart, certainly. Wong, Mordo, any of the sorcerers in Kamartaj, Rintrah, everyone's favorite magician. So that's another place. I'll come back to magic later, tease for my theory. Super tech and gear is the fourth category. So technically, Tony Stark is just a very smart guy who's a very good engineer who built very powerful technology and things that had really incredible AI. So AI could be its own kind of magical, mystical source. If you go back to my theory that Mephisto is the source of all AI in the MCU. I don't know if that's going to end up being true, but anybody who's got a really powerful suit or a really powerful weapon. So Shang-Chi, yes, he's a really good fighter, but what really will make him a powerful superhero going forward are these 10 rings, this McLuhan technology. We don't know the source of them, but if it is technology of any kind, any Black Panther who has not taken the heart shaper,
like Shuri in the first film, yes, yeah.
Anybody who's got a suit, just a really badass suit. This is where you get to your Sam Wilson, since Sam has not taken the super soldier serum. He's just got a really incredible suit and a great heart.
Yeah. And now the footage we've seen would seem to fly in the face of this being a potential, because the only displays of his power have been two separate shots taking place. This guy is just a menace on tables. At different times, he, with his hands, he either smacks a table and like cracks it, or, in the footage we just watched, he kind of has his hands on the table and in frustration, it starts to like vibrate because he is so powerful. Now we don't see any metal gauntlets on or, special bands, but in a world in which Tony Stark uses nanotechnology suits where it's like they instantly appear and in theory are like his underwear, essentially, is there a world where Simon Williams could have nanotech underwear that allows him to vibrate a table at will?
Again, it would have to be something like a similar super soldier serum backstory that this show will have to spend its first couple episodes inventing. And I just don't think that's going to happen. We've got the episode run times and they're all 30 minutes and under. Yeah. And if you have a 23-minute runtime on Disney Plus, it's really like a 17-minute episode.
Those Portuguese credits, baby. That's a big
They gotta get through
chunk.
all the German, the Portuguese, all of it. So I don't really know what that means. Maybe that's before credits. 23 minutes is short. That's like an I Am Groot episode.
And it's classic sitcom length, right? Sitcoms not known for their lore and backstory, right?
I mean, but even 23 minutes, it's before you get to the commercials. So Adam County, Dan Harmon, and all the Megan Gans could fit in a lot of great lore into some Community episodes in 22 minutes.
Good point.
But I don't know. I don't think they're going to do that. So that brings us to our fifth category of source.
Though, just to go back to that, the one maybe. And I totally agree, it's very unlikely. But Simon Williams, as you already mentioned, in the comics, his father was an industrialist, a competitor to the Starks, right? And he actually failed because the Starks were so good, and that kind of drove him mad and blah, blah, blah. That's kind of the villain origin story for both Simon Williams and his brother, who became the Grim Reaper, right? Is there a chance some of the backstory of this Simon Williams, and that could be connected to some kind of serum origin or something else, maybe his father, whether he owned or just worked in the munitions, weapons, whatever field, and maybe there is a little bit of that?
That's part of my theory.
Okay, part of your theory. Okay,
it's part of my theory, but you're asking the right question. There could be some technological connection here. The fifth category is gods and avatars of gods.
Yeah.
So Thor,
Moon Knight,
Black Panther, anybody who's an avatar in the way that Khonshu empowers Moon Knight, the way Bast empowers Black Panther, the way Odin and the Allfathers empower Thor, and anybody connected who's an Asgardian, they are technically a god. Anybody who's an Eternal, the Eternals, and including Thanos, are related to that celestial family tree, so they are gods in a sense. So we group them in a separate category. Everyone in Omnipotent City, those are gods, and they kind of have a certain type of longevity, a lifespan. If they have the power of a god, I separate that out from magic. You could group that together with magic. I just think magic is a different thing. Magic is like a learned skill. If Doctor Strange could learn it just by reading a bunch of books at night,
yes,
I wouldn't say that makes him a god.
Right.
And I don't think there's going to be that kind of godly connection to Simon Williams.
No hints at it, certainly in the footage. Yeah.
And then our sixth category is mutation. And Marvel Studios has barely even touched on this yet, but as of, Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, she was described as having a mutation. Namor is a mutant. And then we've seen mutants from other universes in Deadpool and Wolverine and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But at some point soon, we're going to start learning more people are mutants, and I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. They could use this show to do it. It's possible. I don't know. It would be a retcon to say that Wonderman is a mutant. I think they're going to want to go a more classic route once the Marvel Studios X-Men movie comes.
Agreed. Yeah.
So those are our six. There may be some other kind of, what about, the spider that bit Peter Parker? I have questions for that too. My theory is that there was a gamma irradiated spider. So gamma radiation was what did it.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man's always been a unique category. And a lot of Marvel characters have a combination of these things. And a lot of them just don't have powers. So like the Black Widow spies. Yeah. Hawkeye is just a really good archer, as is Kate Bishop. A lot of these characters just don't even have any kind of major technology. And some of those trick arrows are pretty cool, but a lot of them are just like skills that they've acquired, and they're just good hand-to-hand combatants. So when it comes to Simon Williams, the way he first came into my world and as a character I thought about being in the MCU somehow is this whole West Coast Avengers storyline and his connection to Vision in the Grim Reaper. It's Simon Williams, and it's really the Williams brothers' brainwaves that give Vision his new personality in the comics. We all thought that Wonderman and the Grim Reaper could even show up in WandaVision based off of some clues.
There was a nice little Easter egg.
There was an Easter egg that they put in there. Now, I don't know. It seems like that was just the animators who worked on WandaVision. But this whole idea of seeing yourself in some kind of television reality and feeling like you need to do it. A theory, I feel like I pitched this at some point in a video. Wanda's hex magic had some kind of entanglement with television communication through frequencies that are broadcasted into the form of sitcoms as a medium. Could that same magic / cosmic radiation / maybe even mutation / technology, is it all six of these things in some way that have resulted in Simon Williams getting the power that he has? And what I'm referring to is, was he just watching some broadcast from Westview, New Jersey at some point, watching some sitcom, being confused why he saw the Scarlet Witch or the Wanda Maximoff, one of the Avengers, in some form of Vision, one of the Avengers in sitcoms? Was he either passing through New Jersey, or did this make it all the way to LA? And somehow that magic, when the hex collapsed, affected him in some way and changed his body. Are we going to get some connection with Vision in Vision Quest, where like some form of Simon Williams brainwaves, like part of this eccentric director is he wants to harvest the brainwaves from his actors the way a lot of eccentric directors want to harvest the likenesses from actors, plug it into some kind of AI engine, and do the work for them and be able to like own their performance for the rest of all time.
The Kovacs director does have an interesting line. I think, again, this is maybe in the original trailer and not in this one. Like, we're going to make a superhero movie. It'll be so good, they'll never make another one after this.
Right. I think we are looking at the possibility of another morality tale about the dangers of AI. We know something that people working on this show are terrified of AI in the way that it's going to change the filmmaking and television production industry in the way that it already has. So doesn't it kind of make sense that like the way weirdly Vision Quest will, but Ironheart was kind of about like the dangers of AI, the ethical dangers of AI. I don't know if Mephisto will be part of this. I really don't want him to be, but this whole idea of using AI as this ghost within the machine and Simon Williams accidentally signing his soul away as his likeness, his performance, his uniqueness is plugged into some database. And then that is kind of like, it has some kind of effect with him. In order to extract his likeness, he has to sign up for some kind of like, he has to hook himself up to some kind of machine. He has to take some kind of serum, whatever it is, that ends up backfiring in some way and giving him these powers. So really it's a story about an actor who feels like he has to sign up for the superhero role, but what he doesn't realize is they plucked this random obscure superhero story just as an excuse to test pilot this new technology in order to revolutionize industries, to basically plug people up into the grid, into a cloud, to try to have some form of like immortality where like actors can live forever and ever because they can just use AI to replicate their performance.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not like he gets superpowers on purpose. It's when he's going through that process, that evil process, that something goes wrong in the machine and it like gives him powers.
So you're saying that he does not have powers?
I'm thinking he doesn't have powers at first, but like through some observation of what Wanda Maximoff did to warp reality in WandaVision, like they were able to harness some of that magic or whatever it was, whatever like stayed on that drone that they were able to siphon into White Vision. There's something else that Wanda's hex warped in some way and left glowing, and they siphoned that magic.
A little hex stink got on him.
Yeah. And then some of that is going to go over to the West Coast.
But I guess in the timeline of this show, when he shows up for these auditions, he already has these powers. He has absorbed this little Wanda residue.
I think no. I think he doesn't know yet. And when he's saying he's born for this role, I think it's more of just a thematic thing.
Sure.
I think he grew up watching this character, and he feels like he's the only person in the world who loved this movie.
Yeah. I mean, classic break room bit, thirsty thespian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the Simu Liu and his process of getting the Shang-Chi role is like the best example of this. This was a character he always wanted to play. He advocated for it really hard. He got it, right? Like, this almost could be like a beat for beat recreation of how the real life Simu Liu got his big role. Right?
And I know the theory I just posed was very deconstructed and didn't make any sense, but imagine this. You know how in Tenet there was like the mystery chamber that they just go into, and Nolan does not explain at all how that works, but at some point you go through it, it rotates, you come out the other side in an inverted world from your perspective. Imagine that like this is what Wonderman's going to do is make fun of the whole idea of the light box that they have in movie studios, the LED lined room, or just rooms where you have to wear these ridiculous fractal mocap suits or something like that. This director has some crazy new chamber that he says he can shoot movies in and just actors' performances in and just capture their movements, their likeness, and project stuff around them or whatever. He's like, I will shoot all of my movies on these tiny cramped soundstage, and it's transported, and it's maybe like, 30 feet by 30 feet chamber with these weird lights all around. You have to wear a weird suit. And what it does is it like irradiates people who are inside or something like that, using Wanda's magic in some form. And what that does is kind of tries to extract his soul into a specific server that they can use AI to generate untold numbers of sequels out of.
Oh, I love where your head's at. I don't know if I agree.
It doesn't make sense. I'll say it's not the best theory I've had.
No,
I
like
think,
it.
It's one way it could connect to everything.
It's a very full theory. I don't know if I wouldn't have thought of it, and so maybe that's why I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around it. I will say one thing. All of the footage they've shown, both in this teaser and in the previous kind of full trailer, feels like it's probably from the first episode of the show.
Yeah.
Because I think a couple key things are missing. We never see him like use his powers other than like accidentally, very quick anecdote. Like he never fights anybody in any of the footage we've seen. He will fight somebody in the course of this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not going to get through 6 or 8 or 9 episodes of the show, and he's not in a full blown brawl probably with another powered antagonist, right? Who we also have not seen any evidence of. There's also like rather large roles that have not really been portrayed. Ed Harris is in this show.
He's the agent, I believe.
Yes, very strange. Though he's talking to somebody else. You know, the female agent manager character, right? Like is
she seems like an assistant at an agency or at a
and maybe
production company
she's
or
the junior agent, and Ed Harris is the big, you know, the Ari Emanuel type character. And once he books this role, that's when that guy steps in and is like, "Oh, you're about to be A-list. I'll take you." Who knows? Or Ed Harris plays a great villain.
Yeah.
They've purposely left him out of all promotional materials, even though he's like a pretty big name. So it's like kind of interesting. There's something there, right?
Is he in the way that, like, again, I'm trying to imagine the writers we know working on this show. What story would they want to pitch? And you can say like, well, you know, She-Hulk was kind of its own weird thing. Ironheart was its own weird thing. Both of those shows at the end of the day, if you look back at all the episodes of the seasons, ended up being definitely a Brad Winderbaum Marvel show. There were super battles at some point. There was a lot of visual effects that went into it. So no matter what Wonderman looks like now, at some point it's going to go in that direction where it looks like whatever all these Marvel Disney Plus shows look like. Big VFX battles that have some kind of like big plot, some kind of twist that they're going to unveil on us. And maybe it lands, maybe it doesn't. But at some point they're going to think like, okay, how can we take the typical genre beats of a superhero story and map it onto whatever world we want to live in right now? And I think that world is definitely the world of an auditioning actor in LA.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm thinking. Like at some point we're going to get some reveal of like Neil Soroyan, who is the agent character that Ed Harris is playing, and then President Gurkos, the director, have some kind of packaged deal. And in the industry, that's a big thing that happens. Agents, like people from ICM or CAA, will package shows in a deal with production companies, directors, and studios. Modern Family was a packaged show.
No, actually, it's been that practice of doing that has
They
been
rolled it.
recently
As a result
banned.
of the recent labor strikes, they've done that. But they're still going to find ways to do it.
And whatever, this show doesn't have to follow current actual Hollywood rules. They have to use a different universe.
And it was pitched before the labor strike was done.
Yes.
And it was shot before the labor strike.
Yeah, I do think that's a good point. And even though this show in format, as far as like how long the episodes are, and certainly in tone, it's everything we've seen, it's a light tone, it's a comedy, right? Feels like more in line with She-Hulk as far as tone and setting and things like that than something like WandaVision. Though this was also made years after something like She-Hulk, right? Where like Marvel has had more experience making Disney Plus series, right? They're learning some lessons. They're like adapting their style and stuff like that. Don't you think one of the key lessons they've learned is these shows need to be built around some kind of a core mystery?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason you want to get to the end of the show to solve something. She-Hulk is not built around a core mystery, right?
It kind of was. It kind of was with the whole who is the intelligentsia, who's trying to steal her blood,
I guess.
and then it did a whole meta subversion of that mystery in the final episode.
Yeah,
but for the
I guess though
from
that,
episodes 5 through 8, it very much was a core mystery.
I guess that though, yeah, it did not feel like that is driving the entirety of the plot, right? Like that show had a lot of slice of life stuff.
It was episodic
she's hooking
for the
up.
first half
She's
of
got
the
her
season.
job. She's
Yes.
got her work-life balance, all this kind of shit. Whereas like WandaVision, core mystery. Agatha All Along, core mystery, right? Like
Agatha All Along, yes, but even WandaVision, its first 3 episodes did not have a core mystery on the surface. It wasn't until episode 3 or 4.
no, but those first 3 episodes, you're watching them being like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, okay. But like with She-Hulk, a lot of us were asking that same question in that like it seemed like an episodic thing, but then you have the guy she's on a date with, and that guy ends up being the creeper running the intelligentsia. Like there is a classic whodunit.
I guess
to it.
I picked a bad example, but
No, but you're not
say,
wrong. It wasn't well executed. I'll give you that.
Yeah, maybe that's it. And like you know, I think the knocks on something like She-Hulk or the first season of Daredevil Born Again are like they are a little too episodic in that like there is not a big, powerful, overarching plot to the entirety of the season, whereas I think the Marvel stuff has been the most successful, like the 2 seasons of Loki, WandaVision, right? Like when there is an overarching plot, right?
Yeah.
When there is like, and that is harder to do with a comedy in a 25-minute or 30-minute show than it is with a 50-minute or hour-long show. But I do think that is going to be an important part of that. Now, what that mystery is, if that is like, we don't know, and maybe he doesn't know the truth about his powers, or the extent of his powers, right? Maybe there is like the Kovacs character, the director, right? Like maybe there is even more to him in that plot, as you've kind of hinted at, like what's the real reason for doing this? Why are they all meeting in this house? You know, all this kind of stuff. Like I do think like this show will play with that intrigue, and there must be something bigger behind the scenes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And we're not saying it's going to be something as like grand as Mephisto is, but like it'll be something like small scale at least. Like you got to structure something. And I think at some point there's going to be some greedy or power hungry person who's like hungry for power. A power hungry person who's hungry for power, mind blowing. But what I'm saying is like, there's gonna be someone who's trying to ethically skirt the rules in order to try to get ahead. There's gonna be some kind of villain, or there's gonna be some kind of like, I don't know, tragic villain maybe. Even
could this entire thing be premised upon Mr. Glass style? This is all a ruse to try to discover superpowered individuals.
Oh, sure. That's another way to go.
I mean, again, it would be weird then to make them sign something saying they're not superpowered. But maybe also if they refuse to sign, that's like, set off the alarm. We got one, you know?
Yeah. Like there's all kinds of different multifaceted attempts to entrap enhanced people.
And again, the first trailer focused on this more, but like we know there's going to be some kind of situation where the callback is they bring a group of actors to this mansion, and that's where, you know, the like go method is. And we just see like little snippets of them, but it's an interesting group in that it's like Ben Kingsley and Yahya Abdul-Mateen show up together, right? So there's not a world in which both of those people would be auditioning for the same role, right? So we are to assume that within the the world within the world of Wonderman, right, the movie from the 80s in this universe, that there is a role for a Ben Kingsley type. There is an older mentor, or maybe even the villain is an older character, right? A role Ben Kingsley's character would be perfectly suited for. He played a world-conquering villain, right?
Yeah.
In this universe. So like, if this is like kind of a meta chemistry test, right? We are bringing in different pairs, and frequently in the world of auditions, you are paired up with people. Like there's famous stories of like Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams for The Notebook or whatever, right? Like they pair up actors to see if they're both good for their parts and if they work together. And sometimes you mix and match and like, oh, I think we got our girl, but let's try out a couple guys with her or whatever, right? Like, I wonder if that's what's going on in that mansion. And if it is a hero role for Wonder Man, and if there is an older, and you see there's a couple of the actors gathered there are younger and a couple of them are older, right? If they are also like, if they are chemistry testing heroes and villains, and that like maybe there's going to be a meta thing there of like, is the villain the actual director? Right?
Yeah.
He is styled somewhat similar to Ben Kingsley in this, like old guys with long gray hair. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Is there some kind of a proxy thing going on there? Do you think any of the other people showing up for that callback could be powered individuals?
I don't think any of them are.
Okay.
And I think like, I think him signing that, I think that's an authentic thing. I don't think Simon is lying when he's signing this form in this trailer. I really don't think he has powers at the start of this.
Interesting.
I think he gets them as a result of the callback. Like, I think he is a guy who just is an actor. I think it's what they're going to explore is the way technology is corrupting and exploiting people who work in the film industry and the TV industry. And they're going to do some kind of morality tale about that. And I don't know what it's going to be, but I do think some kind of technology, he's going to go through some technological process that's going to backfire or give him powers as a result of this eccentric filmmaker who wants to try something weird to try to profit or be more successful with his filmmaking in a way that's going to hurt him. I just think like knowing that's going to be the way Brad Winderbaum translated it from the comics of Simon Williams.
And I think you could play, if that is the case, you could play with some fun themes that are frequent, like exploitation, right? Like actors sometimes feel like exploited for their talents or their bodies or whatever in films and TV, right? Like you could play with some interesting like meta angles there, right? I think I have an alternate crazy pitch. Is this the time in the episode we can get into crazy pitches? Okay. I think this whole thing could be a play on the cult film Twinkle Toes. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay. It is cult in that it is a notorious film that is like awful in that. So it was a film that starred Gary Oldman and Peter, Game of Thrones,
Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. Okay, they both play little people in this film. Gary Oldman walks on his knees in this movie. If you Google it, it is much memed and this movie barely came out. It did not get it, but it is earnest. It is like a serious movie about people dealing with their disability or whatever. But they cast Peter Dinklage, a real person of small stature, and a person of normal stature, Gary Oldman, and they didn't force him, whatever. They thought it would be cool that he walk on his knees and his character is a little person. It's wild. There's a lot of videos made making fun of this movie. I think something like that could play out where, Simon Williams in this is cast maybe not as Wonderman, right? And he is forced to be on this set with a normal human pretending to have powers, and he has to grind his teeth over in the corner of that's not what it's really like. You know what I mean? I think there could be something like that. Maybe he does eventually get cast, but that is explored in this callback phase, right? Which could be multiple episodes, we don't know, or very extensive, right? Where he sees all these guys pretending what it's like to be Wonder Man, when he's like, I am Wonder Man, and yet I can't.
Yeah.
Be Wonder Man.
I like this idea. I like the idea that I would definitely watch that show of maybe he's even the stunt man. Maybe he thinks he's getting the part, and then they're like, oh, you can be the stunt guy who takes the hits, but you can't have superpowers because we need to, the people need to show pain for this, and we don't want the stunt man to accidentally, get super strong and cave someone's skull in. So maybe the whole time he's having to restrain his superpowers. I mean, we've seen that played out, and I really love that idea on a movie set of someone who can't show powers.
The William Dafoe film Shadow of the Vampire, right? Resuppose that Nosferatu, Max Schreck, the star of the original 19 whatever Nosferatu, was an actual vampire and was slowly killing his co-stars and cast members and stuff like that. But whatever. I know both my reference to that movie and Twinkle Toes are not a perfect fit.
No, but I get what you're going for, and I really, really like that idea. In fact, I think I like that show better than whatever my theory was, because that's really fun. I get that show.
And even the flaw to my pitch is, but you still then need him to eventually super punch somebody and jump 100 feet in the air.
Right, and that
whatever,
will happen
right?
at some point. At some point, he will release the beast.
The one action set piece we've seen is involves a golf cart zooming around a backlot, and that is not a use of superpowers. We know there's going to be something more.
There will be something more.
Yeah.
Well, comment down below with your theories. I do have to say, after seeing I don't know, 2.5 trailers so far worth of material for Wonder Man, a show that's coming in 2 months, I have no idea what the show is. I don't know what the show is, and I'm pumped for it.
And I think it's going to be a hard show to market. It'll be interesting to see what the audience response is. But I am so jazzed for this. Again, I am in the target demographic. I own that ring light that he is setting up for his audition, right?
Yeah.
I've done the vocal exercises in the trailer ahead of my one line or whatever. So it's this does feel and it's shot in Los Angeles in places we have been, right?
Yes. The Hollywood Reservoir.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like probably the Disney lot. We've walked around that before.
Yeah.
When we go collect our payments that they give us
for our shill
checks. Shill checks. All right. Well, comment down below with what you think the show will be. Jessica's going to be breaking down every episode of the show when it comes on January 27th, and I'm really excited not just to watch the show, but to watch her Easter egg breakdowns of these episodes. It's going to be great. What's coming up on New Rockstars in the week ahead? Well, please subscribe to the Witching Hour, our other channel. Gina's analysis of Freddy versus Jason is going to be the next video on the Witching Hour channel. But on New Rockstars, we are covering It, Welcome to Derry. Our breakdown of episode 3 is going to be tomorrow's video. Also, you could probably already watch our breakdown of Predator Badlands. Go watch that movie if you haven't already. It's good. Amazing. It's Sunday morning if you're watching this right now. Go watch it this afternoon. And Regal, if you can.
It is go see it at a Regal Theater. It is a blast of a movie. Eric and I got to see it last night. Shout out to the Youches. It is a really fun movie. I also think, I was saying to Eric as we left the theater, a nice entry point for the franchise. Obviously, if you're a diehard OG Predator fan, you're going to love it. Also, if you've never really watched them, you don't need to know any lore. I think it's a nice way to introduce yourself to everything. It was just so much fun.
Yep. Yeah. And as we look ahead to Stranger Things final season, you can expect a video on the New Rockstars channel that recaps everything you need to know going into that season. We wanted to try to do full season re-breakdowns, but there's just too much. But what we will do is condense it into one comprehensive video that just breaks down everything that happened on this series headed to the final season. We also will be touching on the equally canonical stuff from the play, the Stranger Things play. Yeah, there's a lot that gets established about Henry Creel. Believe it or not, the guy who becomes Vecna went to school with Joyce Byers.
What?
Yeah, it did happen. So we'll either do that as two separate videos or we'll just touch on it in one big video, but we will be covering Stranger Things comprehensively on the new Rockstars channel this month. Okay, Zach, we'll end out this episode of The Sneak Peek with what we're watching. What have you been watching this week that might have nothing to do with everything else we're covering?
I mean, yeah, top of mind, Predator Badlands.
Yep.
Woo-wee, that was great. Other things I've watched. I mean, we're recording this early November, coming out of October. Of course, I, like lots of people, was like, let's watch some horror, and I went down the rabbit hole of John Carpenter. Okay, you just put out a Witching Hour video about Halloween, kind of his big name-making endeavor, but he, did a lot of other work that was both in the action genre and kind of the horror genre and the action horror genre. I watched several of his films I'd never seen before. The Prince of Darkness, which is an interesting, the devil lives on a jar of goo kind of a film, like a kind of micro budget, weird, fun, gross out film. I also rewatched Escape from New York, which not horror, but has some fun, great shit in it. And, In the Mouth of Madness.
Yep, that's a good one. It's
Sam Neill, which
a Stephen King adaptation, I think, or is that not?
I don't know. That's a good question, and it's certainly got some Lovecraftian kind of shit going on, and it is wild. I think I had not watched a lot of John Carpenter's horror movies. I'd seen Halloween, and that was about it. Like his style and like that 80s practical effects, but also very campy, very weird, like. Was a nice bath to sit in this October. Yeah, I had a great time with those. Yeah.
I watched Backdraft.
Oh, I have not seen that in a million years.
So rewatch it. What a wild movie.
What a cast.
So I was on a plane, and I love identifying what's a good flight movie that like is a good. I love going back to the well of 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Just like broad appeal action movies that like you don't care too much about the mise en scène, but are just like good, intense movies with big emotions. And Backdraft, the story of Chicago firefighters, played by William Baldwin and Kurt Russell as brothers.
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro plays a fire investigator. Scott Glenn is in the movie.
Low-key villain of that
Jason
movie.
Lee is in it. Donald Sutherland plays Hannibal Lecter arsonist who they have to ask for advice. It's a wild Ron Howard jam between, let's see, Splash and Cocoon Ron Howard.
Pre A Beautiful Mind.
Oh, and then it was like what he did to get him to direct Apollo 13.
Okay. Oh, like, wow. It was that early. Okay.
And it got some awards attention for the visual effects at the time. They hold up. They did a lot of fire in that movie.
Is it arguably still the greatest firefighter movie ever made? What are the other candidates there?
What's the one that Garth Brooks did the song for? I almost did Creed's With Arms Wide Open. Come back to me again, and then I see. There was like a later 90s firefighter movie.
Okay.
That Garth Brooks did the song for.
And I mean, there's some like 9/11 movies that kind of feature firefighters. That doesn't count. There's some like
there's the
Wildfire.
Ladder 13 or whatever, the more recent one that came out in the past 15 years.
And there's like Wildfire movies, certainly.
There are Wildfire
But there's not a lot of, when you consider the ocean of cop movies, how relatively few firefighter movies there are.
And Backdraft was one of the first big ones in that it was not just about the life of being a firefighter or a family of firefighters. It's also about municipal politics in the city of Chicago.
There's a mystery to be solved.
There's a mystery.
There's some sex.
There's a lot of it's a movie about everything.
Yeah.
And only Ron Howard could pull it off.
Yeah.
It's an insane film.
Can I say, and I assume maybe this was edited for the airplane cut or whatever, there's a certain subset of movies. I've been flying pretty frequently lately, watching a lot of films on airplanes, and like the decision tree I have to go through with like, okay, I want to watch that movie. Wait, are there any scenes where when it is playing on my laptop or my phone and a stewardess or a fellow passenger walks by and they sees that on my screen, they will judge me very harshly.
There's only a bit of it in Backdraft in that you get some firefighter ass.
You get a little Baldwin butt?
You get some Baldwin butt in the movie. Kurt Russell, a little bit of like Kurt Russell crack in it. I'm not certain about that, but you do see like William Baldwin in the showers with his buddy at some point, and there's just like butt. Scott Glenn comes out of the showers at one point.
And again, sometimes airlines
see Stick's butt.
Yeah, sometimes airlines cut out some of the real heavy stuff.
Not
but
this
like,
one.
It's been popping up when I fly, like the Anyone But You, the Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell rom-com, and I'm like, oh yeah, I heard some stuff about that. I wouldn't mind watching that, but the other thing I've heard is there's a lot of nudity in that movie, and it's like,
ass.
again, I just don't want that to be on my screen when they ask, would you like another Coke Zero? You know,
I've watched like back episodes of Game of Thrones and Sopranos on flights before, and it was like, little kid in the same row as me.
Yeah.
Turn away. Yeah. You don't get too much of that in Backdraft. Backdraft is mostly like weirdly De Niro waxing poetic about the evil mind and sentience of fire.
Yes.
Fire is not sentient
And
to anyone wondering.
doesn't that have some cool like slow-mo flames going across
He's like,
the
if
ceiling?
you want to understand fire, you have to understand its hunger, its thirst, its evil. And it's like, no, man, it's not how it works. But I love movies like that. It's it's movies that you cannot help but laugh when they cast two romantic love leads to the main stars, to the brothers, and they're both thin, white, blonde women that if you just do this are the same human being.
Yes.
And it's like, you couldn't cast just even a brunette?
Get a redhead in there.
Get a redhead? Or let alone, it's a city of Chicago with a huge, diverse population. Why can't one of them be a Latina or a black woman? Come on, guys.
It drives me nuts when there's films with like a large cast and like the side characters all look the same. And it's clear like either the director or the casting director had a type.
Yeah.
But it's like, we got to mix up races, heights, haircuts. Please, it's too hard to keep track of.
And nothing against the women who were cast in those roles. It's just literally, if you do this, they look exactly the same. I guess you could say the same thing for, William Baldwin and Kurt Russell, but at least Kurt Russell is an iconic star at that point, and they're brothers. Yes. So they should look alike. I mean, they shouldn't have the same type of women.
To bring it back to our normal stomping ground, Marvel has done a pretty good job at that. We noted one of the major flaws of like the What If sub franchise is that they make everybody look alike, right? Like, whereas with the live action, they cast enough of a variety. You could make an argument Chris Evans and Paul Rudd and Sebastian Stan are all white guys, but
named
like,
Chris. Yeah.
What?
A lot of them white guys named Chris.
Yes. Yeah, Pratt, whatever. But like both from costuming and like Sebastian Stan gets the long hair. Thank you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Put a mask on this guy wears a helmet, whatever. It's enough so that the quick visual language, you're watching on your phone and only half paying attention, you do not lose track of who is who.
Yeah, and I remember being a kid seeing these types of movies from Blockbuster in the 90s.
Yeah.
And just like afterwards talking about it with friends years later and being like, yeah, and then there was that one guy and they're like, those are two different characters, right? And I'm like, wait, huh? Like, I can't remember specific examples, but definitely like Armageddon or something like that.
Yes.
Like mixing up Owen Wilson and the guy who's the assistant coach and Remember the Titans. Like,
Matthew Fox.
Is
that him?
No, it's Matthew Fox is Lost and Speed Racer.
Lucas. Is it Josh Lucas?
Maybe.
These are all dudes. They look a lot alike.
Yeah.
Or my issue, younger crop of Garrett Hedlund, the other Hemsworth brothers. Who's Pacific Rim and
Charlie
Hunnam.
Yeah.
Those I still am not sure which dude is which. I do not know those
you
dudes.
got Tom Hardy and Logan Marshall Green, same human being, I'm pretty sure. That's like the Katy Perry, JonBenet Ramsey. Like, they're both the same person.
What?
Hold on. You've heard the conspiracy theory that JonBenet Ramsey survived and is now Katy Perry. It's like the most famous conspiracy theory of pop 90s. You've never heard this?
That is
Brian, you've heard this, right?
No.
Oh,
You're
Brian,
the only one.
Brian is wearing
You're the
a
only one on
JonBenet
this.
Lives shirt right now.
No.
I'm
Eric's
not
the only one on
only-
this
you
subreddit.
see,
He's the only
if
one.
Jessica were here, she would back me up right now. Get her on the phone. No, but yeah, she lives. And the whole Poot Lovato conspiracy theory.
That's
bless
very
you,
real.
Demi.
That's
Demi
not
for
a
leading
theory,
into
though.
that this Halloween. She became my new favorite celebrity for just embracing that. Anyway, yeah. I will only watch those movies like either if I'm high on a weekend, which never happens anymore because I I have a kid. I can't just like, he's too young. He still needs me to look after him.
Yes.
And, but like, that's what I used to do during COVID. Or if I'm on a flight, I will watch movies like that. I'll watch movies like, what are some early 90s?
Oh, the Harrison Ford, Jack Ryan films.
Yes, Patriot Games is perfect for that. Hunt for Red October, that's another Baldwin.
You know,
Jack
Die
Ryan.
Hard's 1 through 3.
You see, but Die Hard, the first Die Hard is like too much of a classic for me.
Okay.
As is with The Vengeance.
Sure.
Too much of a classic, but I'm thinking of other ones like Apollo 13 is almost too good.
Oh, yeah,
But if
yeah, a
you
little
go to
too
like
prestige-y.
early 90s,
Yeah.
kind of like the Lethal Weapons are good for
that's
this.
a good one. Yeah.
I grew up with movies like this that are just great blockbuster rentals. Ooh, a perfect one. Enemy of the State.
Oh,
Enemy of the
yeah,
State
yeah,
is like
yeah.
a perfect, like, put that on the plane.
Will Smith
You'll
had
be
a
good.
run there where he was doing that he was knocking those genres out pretty well. Yeah.
They're now dad movies, basically, is what I'm realizing.
And they're now Amazon series.
Yeah, oh, for
They
sure.
don't really make them as movies
They
anymore.
don't, yeah, which is a shame because this was like a great genre
Yes.
of a film you could watch that like just dad got his that weekend.
I mean,
one for the kids and one for the dad.
It's Taylor Sheridan has built a universe on this.
That's why Taylor
you know?
Sheridan shows are in existence. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Let us know what you've been watching this week. Again, it's not like I'm watching Backdraft instead of working on Memento.
Yeah, don't leave the comment. Where's my blank trailer
blank?
breakdown?
I'm
Yeah,
getting
get
to
out of here.
everything. This is just something where I cannot work on anything else. I am a captive in a tiny metal tube in the air, and watching a 2-hour Ron Howard 1991 film is the only thing I can.
He's allowed to consume stuff not for work.
It makes me better at what I do watching this other crap. And Backdraft is fine. It's not crap, but it's not like high art either.
Yeah.
And we need a healthy diet of that kind of crap too. All right. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to Brian Kim for producing and editing this episode. And big thanks to Zach for filling in this week. And you're welcome back whenever, Zach. And man, this Ebert and Siskel turn is great. We got to do this every time.
I like it.
We got to figure it out. All right. Comment down below with everything you're watching and your thoughts on Wonderman. What is this show? We want to hear your theories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.